The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council convened in chaos. Representatives from dozens of worlds shouted over each other while emergency reports flooded in from across Federation space. The humans have attacked 17 civilian stations. They destroyed the medical convoy to Proxima 7th. Our trade routes are completely cut off. Supreme Chancellor Mordak slammed his massive fist on the podium, demanding silence. His ancient features showed strain as he addressed the panicking delegates. Enough. We will have order. The chamber gradually quieted. Commander Thexmol, report on the Sol system operation. Thexmol stood slowly, his uniform torn and burned from the battle. Chancellor, the operation was unsuccessful. We underestimated human capabilities. You had 36,000 ships against 5,000 primitives. Sir, they are not primitives. They fight unlike any species we have encountered. They use tactics that... Thexmol paused, searching for words. They weaponize everything. Asteroids, gas clouds, even their own ships. Councillor Velnara leaned forward. What do you mean, weaponize their own ships? They use suicide attacks, Councillor. Human pilots deliberately crash their vessels into our ships to cause damage. They show no regard for their own lives. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. The concept of suicide attacks was alien to most Federation species. That's barbaric, whispered the Nexari representative. It's effective, Thexmol replied grimly. They've made our numerical advantage meaningless. We cannot engage them in traditional fleet combat because they refuse to fight traditionally. Dr. Yalseth, the Federation's chief xenobiologist, activated her console. I have been studying human biology and history since the attacks began. What we are seeing is consistent with their evolutionary background. Explain. The Chancellor commanded. Humans evolved as persistence hunters on a world filled with large predators. They learned to survive by being more cunning, more adaptable, and more ruthless than anything else on their planet. The display showed images of Earth's wildlife. Every other species in their ecosystem was stronger, faster, or more heavily armored. Humans survived by using tools, tactics, and cooperation. What does this have to do with their current behavior? Everything, Chancellor. We have been viewing this as a police action against a rebellious member species. The humans view this as a survival situation. And humans in survival mode are unlike anything the galaxy has seen. General Crixnall stepped forward. They are violating every rule of civilized warfare. They attack civilian targets, use suicide tactics, and ignore all concepts of honor. Because they never developed those concepts, Dr. Yalseth explained. Human warfare evolved from tribal survival conflicts. To them, there is no such thing as civilized war. There is only victory or extinction. The holographic display activated, showing a human in military uniform. Intelligence Officer Marcus Webb spoke directly to the camera. Members of the Galactic Federation, this is a message from the United Earth government. Your leaders have declared war on humanity. They seem to believe we will fight by your rules. This is incorrect. The image shifted to show Federation ships burning in space. You have spent 3,000 years conquering species that developed agriculture, art, and philosophy. You have never fought a species that spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing. The display showed ancient human weapons. Spears, swords, guns, bombs. We have studied your history. You wage war like a chess game. Formal, structured, predictable. We wage war like a knife fight in the dark. Chancellor Mordak's face darkened. Turn off this transmission. Sir, it's being broadcast across the entire Federation on all channels. We cannot stop it, the human continued speaking. Your species fight for territory, resources, or politics. Humans fight for survival. And when humans fight for survival, we fight with everything we have. The display showed human ships striking deep into Federation space, targeting infrastructure and supply lines. You want to enslave our people and strip our world bare. We understand. But understand this in return. We will burn down your entire civilization before we let you touch one human child. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. How are their ships penetrating so deeply into our territory? Demanded Admiral Corex. They are not using conventional jump routes, replied the tactical analyst. They are navigating through areas we consider impassable. Stellar radiation fields, gravity anomalies, dark matter clouds. They are taking risks no sane pilot would attempt. And they are succeeding? Their casualty rate is enormous. But the ships that survive are striking targets we thought were completely secure. Dr. Yalseth consulted her notes. This is consistent with human psychology. They are willing to accept massive losses to achieve strategic objectives. Most species retreat when casualties reach 10%. Humans have historical examples of continuing to fight with 90% casualties. That's impossible. No species is that suicidal. Not suicidal, Chancellor. Determined. There is a difference. A new alarm sounded as another priority message arrived. The display showed a burning Federation colony world. This is Governor Thexelar of Kepler Station. The humans, they didn't try to capture our world. They just destroyed everything. Our spaceports, our communication centers, our power grid. Then they left. They're not trying to conquer us. They're trying to cripple us. More reports flooded in from across Federation space. Human ships were systematically destroying the infrastructure that held the galactic civilization together. They are targeting our weakness, realized General Crixenol. Our empire depends on trade, communication, and transportation. They are attacking the systems that connect our worlds. How long can we maintain control if this continues? Asked Councillor Velnara. At current rate of infrastructure loss? Perhaps 6 months before complete collapse of interstellar coordination. The chamber erupted in panic again. The Federation had ruled for millennia, but no one had ever attacked the foundations of their power. We need to end this quickly, Chancellor Mordak declared. What options do we have? We could offer them better terms, suggested Councillor Velnara. Absolutely not. The Federation does not negotiate with terrorists. Sir, Dr. Yalseth said quietly, I must inform you of something else I discovered in my research. What is it? Humans have a concept they call total war. When they feel their existence is threatened, they mobilize their entire civilization for combat. They convert all industry to military production, conscript entire populations, and fight until one side is completely destroyed. That's madness. To us, yes. To them it's Tuesday, Chancellor. In their history, they have fought wars where millions died to capture a single city. They have conflicts where they poisoned entire continents and burned cities to ash, rather than allow enemies to capture them. The implications hung heavy in the air. You are saying they will never surrender? I am saying that humans view extinction and surrender as the same thing. They will fight until every last human is dead, rather than accept slavery. Chancellor Mordak was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was grim. Then we must ensure that outcome. If they will not surrender, we will grant them their preferred alternative. Sir, prepare the sterilization protocols. If humans want to fight to extinction, we will accommodate them. In the depths of space, hidden human listening posts recorded every word. The Federation had just escalated to biological warfare. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for that possibility since the war began. The galaxy was about to learn that when you threaten to exterminate humanity, humans respond by teaching you what extinction really looks like. Commander Thexmol stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable Victory, as 3 Federation fleets dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 36,000 vessels stretched across space in perfect formation, a sight that had brought 1,000 worlds to their knees. Sensor report, he commanded. Sir, we detect approximately 5,000 human vessels scattered throughout the system. Most appear to be hiding behind planets and asteroids. Thexmol's scarred face showed satisfaction, already cowering. Open a channel to the human homeworld. The massive screen activated, showing the blue-green planet called Earth. After a moment, a human face appeared. Admiral Sarah Chen looked calm, almost relaxed. This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. State your business in our system. I am Commander Thexmol of the Galactic Federation. You will immediately comply with the resource allocation mandate, or face the consequences. We have already given our answer. You are not welcome here. Look around you, Admiral. You face 36,000 warships. Surrender now and your people will be treated with mercy. Admiral Chen smiled, and something in that expression made Thexmol uncomfortable. Commander, let me ask you a question. In all your wars of conquest, how many species have you fought that evolved as predators? The question caught Thexmol off guard. What does that matter? The Vorthak are herbivores. The Nexari absorb minerals. Your own people, the Krathari, are scavengers. You've built an empire by intimidating prey species. Chen's smile grew wider. You've never fought a species that evolved to hunt. Before Thexmol could respond, his tactical officer shouted a warning. Sir, multiple contacts approaching at high speed. The sensor display exploded with contacts. Small human ships burst from the asteroid belt, moving faster than anything the Federation had seen. They came from above, below, and from behind the gas giants where the sensors had missed them. Impossible, Thexmal breathed. They were hiding inside the radiation field of the gas giant. Sir, they're not heading for our main formation. They're targeting our supply ships. Thexmal watched in horror as human vessels slammed into Federation supply convoys. But these weren't attack runs, they were suicide attacks. Human ships loaded with explosives rammed directly into Federation vessels, detonating in brilliant flashes. They're destroying themselves to hurt us, his weapons officer said in disbelief. Sir, we're receiving reports from across the fleet. The humans aren't fighting like any species we've encountered. They're using guerrilla tactics. On the tactical display, Thexmal watched human ships dart in and out of asteroid fields, striking and vanishing before the Federation could respond. They used the system's own geography against the invaders, hiding in radiation shadows and launching ambushes from impossible angles. Return fire. Destroy them all. Sir, we can't get clean shots. They're staying too close to the asteroids. If we fire our main weapons, we might hit our own ships. A new alarm sounded. Commander, we're detecting human ships throughout Federation space. They're not just fighting here, they're attacking our territory. The tactical display showed new contacts appearing across a dozen systems. Human ships had somehow bypassed the Federation's defenses and were striking at supply depots, communication relays, and civilian shipping. How is this possible? Thexmal demanded. We have the finest military in the galaxy. His intelligence officer looked up from her console with fear in her eyes. Sir, I've been analyzing their tactics. They're not following any recognized rules of warfare. They target civilians. They attack medical ships. They're treating this as total war. Medical ships? That's barbaric. Sir, incoming message from Admiral Chen. The human admiral appeared on screen again, but now she was aboard a warship. Battle damage was visible in the background, but her expression remained calm. Commander Thexmal, I thought you should know. We've been studying your people for 50 years. We know where your supply bases are. We know your patrol routes, and we know your weaknesses. You cannot defeat the Federation. We have ruled for 3,000 years. You've ruled prey species for 3,000 years, Chen corrected. You've never fought predators. Do you know what humans did before we reached space, Commander? We spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other efficiently. The tactical display showed more human attacks across Federation space. They weren't trying to hold territory, they were destroying everything they could reach. Sir, they're using terror tactics. They're broadcasting messages to our civilian populations, telling them their government started an unwinnable war. This is not how civilized species conduct warfare. Admiral Chen's laugh was cold. Civilized? Commander, you came to our home to enslave our people. You declared war on us. Did you expect us to fight with honor? Another explosion rocked the inevitable victory as a human fighter crashed into its shields. The small ship couldn't penetrate the massive dreadnought's defenses, but the psychological impact was devastating. Sir, morale across the fleet is dropping. The crew has never seen anything like this. Enemy vessels using themselves as weapons. They fight like monsters, whispered the communications officer. No, Admiral Chen's voice came from the speakers. We fight like humans. And Commander, you've just learned the difference between ruling sheep and fighting wolves. The display showed a new development. Human ships were herding asteroids toward Federation formations, using gravity and explosives to turn space rocks into kinetic weapons. Sir, recommend immediate withdrawal to regroup, suggested the tactical officer. We cannot retreat from primitives. Sir, with respect, these aren't primitives. They're using tactics we've never encountered. They're turning our own size against us. As if to prove the point, 3 human ships dove toward the inevitable victory. 2 were destroyed by defensive fire, but the third punched through and detonated against the bridge tower. Alarms shrieked as the command center lost power. Damage report. Bridge tower compromised. We've lost primary communications. Sir, they're not trying to capture our ships. They're trying to cripple our command structure. Admiral Chen's voice came through the emergency channels. Commander, this is what happens when you threaten humanity's children. We don't surrender. We don't negotiate. We adapt and we overcome. Sir, incoming priority message from Federation Command. The hologram showed Chancellor Mordak himself, his ancient face twisted with rage. Commander Thexmal, what is the meaning of these reports? Human ships are attacking our core worlds. Sir, they're not fighting like any species we've known. They use suicide tactics and target civilians. I don't care how they fight. Destroy them! Sir, they're using the entire system against us. Every asteroid, every planet, every gas cloud is a potential weapon in their hands. The Chancellor's image flickered as another human attack damaged the communication relay. You have the finest fleet in the galaxy. Use it, sir, Thexmal said quietly. I'm beginning to think we don't understand what the finest fleet means to a species that turns space rocks into bullets. The transmission cut out as human ships destroyed another communication node. In the weeks that followed, the Federation would learn that humans had spent centuries studying something the galaxy had forgotten: how to wage total war against a superior enemy. They had learned from every conflict in their history, from ancient guerrilla campaigns to modern asymmetric warfare. Most importantly, they had learned that sometimes the only way to defeat a larger enemy was to make them afraid to fight at all. As the inevitable victory limped back toward Federation space with half the fleet destroyed or damaged, Commander Thexmal realized they had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't attacked a primitive world. They had awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. The sterilization fleet gathered in the hegemony core system, 30 massive dreadnoughts carrying the most terrible weapon in the Federation arsenal. The biological virus had been perfected over centuries, designed to eliminate specific species while leaving their worlds intact for colonization. Admiral Veltar commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. The ancient Krathari warrior had overseen the sterilization of 17 worlds in his career. It was ugly work, but sometimes necessary to maintain galactic order. Admiral, the virus has been loaded into all delivery systems, reported his science officer. A single deployment should eliminate all human life within 72 hours. Confirmed biological compatibility? Yes, sir. The weapon targets human genetic markers specifically. It will not affect any other known species. Admiral Veltar nodded grimly. Then let us finish this war quickly. Set course for Earth. The fleet entered hyperspace carrying death to the human homeworld. It would take them 3 days to reach the Sol system. 3 days to end the most troublesome war in Federation history. On the second day of their journey, they received an unexpected message. Admiral, we are being hailed. Source is unclear. The signal appears to be coming from multiple locations simultaneously. On screen, the display activated, showing a human woman in a simple uniform. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in what appeared to be a command center, but the background was strange. Multiple screens showing different star systems. Admiral Veltar. I am Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We need to talk. There is nothing to discuss, human. Your people chose war. Now you will face the consequences. Before you continue on your current course, there are some things you should know. Veltar gestured dismissively. Your threats no longer concern us. In 60 hours, your species will be extinct. Admiral Chen smiled, and something in her expression made Veltar uncomfortable. Admiral, may I ask, when was the last time you spoke with the Zelani homeworld? The question caught him off guard. The Zelani? What do they have to do with this? Just curious. How about the Karathi? The Vorthak colonies? When did you last receive communication from any of them? Veltar turned to his communications officer with growing unease. When was our last contact with the outer colonies? Checking, sir. Admiral, we haven't received scheduled reports from 17 systems in the past week. 17 systems have gone silent? Admiral Chen's image leaned forward. Not silent, Admiral, free. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace around the sterilization fleet. Hundreds of them, but these weren't human vessels. Sir, we're being surrounded by ships of unknown configuration. Wait, sensors are identifying some of these designs. Zelani Korati Vortak. These are ships from our client species. That's impossible. Those species don't have military fleets. Admiral Chen's laugh was cold. They do now. Admiral, meet the Terran Coalition. Humanity didn't just declare war on the Federation. We started a revolution. The display split to show multiple alien faces. A Zelani commander with bright blue skin spoke first. Admiral Veltar, this is Commander Zexhai of the Free Zelani Navy. The Zelani people remember when your fleets burned our cities. Today we remember. A scarred Karathi appeared next. General Morhex, Karathi Liberation Front. Your people enslaved us for 800 years. That ends now. More faces appeared. dozens of species that the Federation had conquered over the millennia. All of them now flew beside human ships, united in their hatred of their former oppressors. How? Veltar whispered. Admiral Chen answered. While you were focused on our attacks in Federation space, we were visiting your client worlds. We offered them something you never did, a choice. Freedom or continued slavery. They chose freedom. We gave them civilization. Order, peace. You gave them chains, replied Commander Zexhai. The humans offered us weapons, training, and most importantly, hope. Sir, we're receiving tactical data on these ships. They're using human-designed weapons and Federation technology. Somehow they've combined the best of both. Admiral Chen smiled. The humans taught us how to fight. The rebels provided detailed intelligence on Federation weaknesses. Together, we've created something new. You're outnumbered 30-1, Veltar shouted. Yes, Admiral Chen agreed. Poor odds for you. The battle that followed was unlike anything in Federation history. The rebels didn't fight like the disciplined Federation fleets. They fought like humans, using tactics of ambush, misdirection, and overwhelming force applied at weak points. Ships that had never worked together moved in perfect coordination. Zeleny vessels with their superior speed harassed the dreadnoughts while Karathi heavy cruisers provided covering fire. Forthak ships redesigned with human weapons struck at the fleet's flanks and everywhere. Human vessels darted through the battle like sharks, coordinating the assault and striking at critical moments. Sir, the fleet is taking massive casualties. These aren't the same species we conquered. They're fighting with human techniques but using their own natural advantages. Focus fire on the human ships. They're coordinating the attack. We can't, sir. They're integrated throughout the rebel formation. To target them, we'd have to fire through our own forces. Admiral Veltar watched his mighty sterilization fleet crumble under the assault of species he had dismissed as conquered primitives. The virus meant to kill humanity would never reach Earth. Admiral Chen, this is Admiral Veltar. I request terms for surrender. No surrender, Chen replied immediately.
Admiral, you came here to commit genocide against my species.
There are no terms. You cannot mean to destroy us all. Why not? You were planning to sterilize every human in existence. Why should you receive mercy you were unwilling to give? Because we are civilized. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. Admiral, civilization is not about having pretty ships and fancy weapons. Civilization is about how you treat the weak and defenseless. You failed that test centuries ago. The battle continued for 6 hours. When it ended, the sterilization fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single ship escaped to carry news back to Federation space. But the revolution was just beginning. Across the galaxy, human ships appeared at client worlds carrying weapons, supplies, and training. Species that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found themselves with the power to fight back. The Federation's greatest strength, their vast empire of conquered worlds, became their greatest weakness as world after world rose in rebellion. In the ruins of the Eternal Judgment, Admiral Veltar sent one final message before his ship broke apart. All Federation forces, this is Admiral Veltar. Do not underestimate the humans. They don't just wage war. They inspire others to fight for freedom. They have turned our own empire against us. The message was never received. The communication relay had been destroyed by rebels 3 hours earlier. As debris from the sterilization fleet drifted through space, Admiral Chen broadcast a message to every world in the galaxy. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Coalition. The Federation's weapon of genocide has been destroyed. Any species that wants freedom need only ask. Humanity stands ready to help all peoples claim their right to self-determination. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved populations looked up at the stars and dared to hope. The hunters had become liberators, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year after the Federation declared war on humanity, Ambassador Zekthara sat in a detention cell beneath Luna's surface. The proud hegemony leader who had once commanded the respect of 1,000 worlds now wore simple prison clothes and waited for his trial to begin. The war had lasted exactly 11 months and 6 days. Not because humanity had conquered the galaxy, but because the galaxy had conquered itself. Through the transparent wall of his cell, Zekthara could see the bustling activity of New Geneva, the provisional capital of the Terran Coalition. Representatives from 47 species worked together in ways the Federation had never imagined possible. You have a visitor, announced the guard. a young Karathi soldier who treated the former ambassador with professional courtesy but no deference. Admiral Sarah Chen entered the cell, now wearing the simple blue uniform of the coalition's diplomatic corps. She sat across from Zekthera at the small table, her expression neutral. Ambassador, or should I say former ambassador, Admiral Chen, I did not expect to see you here. I wanted to speak with you before the trial begins tomorrow. To understand something, Zekthera looked at her with tired eyes. What could you possibly need to understand? You won, we lost. The Federation is gone, that's just it. We didn't win through conquest. The Federation destroyed itself. Sarah activated a small holographic display showing the galactic map. Red zones marked former Federation territory, now controlled by dozens of independent governments. In 11 months, we fought exactly 17 major battles. The rest of your empire simply crumbled. Species after species chose revolution over loyalty. Why? Zekthera was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was bitter. Because you offered them something we never thought to give them, which was choice. The display showed the timeline of the war. After the sterilization fleet's destruction, the rebellion had spread like wildfire. The Zalani had freed 3 systems in a single week. The Karathi had liberated their entire sector. The Vorthak had overthrown their Federation governors and declared independence. The Federation ruled through fear. Zekthara continued. We conquered species and kept them subjugated through superior technology and overwhelming force. It worked for 3,000 years because no one could imagine an alternative. Until we showed them one. You didn't just show them an alternative. You gave them weapons, training, and most dangerously of all, hope. Zekthara looked directly at Sarah. Do you know what our greatest mistake was, Admiral? Underestimating human military capability? No. Our greatest mistake was not understanding what humans actually were. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Explain. We thought you were a species like any other. Territorial, resource-driven, interested in expansion and conquest. We prepared for war with creatures like ourselves. The display shifted to show footage from the early battles. Human ships using impossible tactics, turning their own weaknesses into strengths. But humans aren't conquerors. You're liberators. You don't fight to take territory. You fight to free people. That's why every species you encountered chose to join you rather than fight you. Even our own colonies joined the rebellion, Sarah noted. Species that had been part of the Federation for centuries. Because you offered them something we couldn't comprehend. Equality, partnership, genuine cooperation between species. Zeka. Thara laughed bitterly. We ruled through dominance. You led through inspiration. The holographic display showed the current state of the galaxy, where once the Federation's rigid hierarchy had controlled everything, now dozens of independent governments work together through the coalition framework. I still don't understand how you did it, Zekthara admitted. How did you convince entire species to trust you? We had proven our power over 3 millennia. Because power isn't the same as strength, Sarah replied. The Federation was powerful, but it was also brittle. It depended on everyone staying afraid and separated. The moment we showed them they could work together, your entire system collapsed. And now? What happens to the galaxy now that the Federation is gone? Sarah stood up and walked to the window overlooking New Geneva. Below them, beings from dozens of species worked side by side on projects that would have been impossible under Federation rule. Now we build something better, not an empire but a community, species that choose to work together because they benefit from cooperation, not because they're forced to. That will never work. Someone will always want more power. There will be wars, conflicts, struggles for dominance. Probably, Sarah agreed. But when those conflicts arise, they'll be resolved by negotiations between equals, not by one species crushing all the others. Zekthara shook his head. You're naive if you think you can change the fundamental nature of power. Maybe. But you're wrong about one thing, Ambassador. What's that? You think we changed the galaxy? We didn't. We just reminded it what freedom looks like. The door opened and the Karathi guard returned. Admiral, the council is ready for your report. Sarah headed toward the door, then paused. Ambassador, your trial starts tomorrow. The charges are war crimes and conspiracy to commit genocide. But I want you to know, if you're found guilty, your sentence won't be death. What will it be? Community service. Helping to rebuild the worlds the Federation damaged. We're going to give you the chance to fix what you broke. Zekthara stared at her in disbelief. Why? Because that's what civilized species do. We don't solve problems by eliminating people. We solve them by changing minds. After Sarah left, Zekthara sat alone in his cell, looking out at the diverse community thriving beyond his window. For the first time in his life, he began to understand what the humans had really brought to the galaxy. Not just military victory, but a completely different way of thinking about power, cooperation, and civilization itself. The next day, during his trial, he would plead guilty to all charges, not because he feared punishment, but because he finally understood what justice actually meant. In the months that followed, he would work alongside beings from dozens of species to repair the damage the Federation had caused, and slowly, he would learn that the humans' greatest weapon had never been their ships or their tactics. Their greatest weapon was their belief that every species in the galaxy deserved freedom, dignity, and the chance to determine their own destiny. The deadliest species in existence hadn't conquered the galaxy through force. They had liberated it through example, and in doing so, they had proven that the most dangerous idea in the universe wasn't superior technology or overwhelming firepower. It was the simple belief that things could be better than they were. The galaxy would never forget the lesson humanity had taught them, that freedom, once offered, spreads faster than any weapon and burns brighter than any star. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started because one species had the courage to say no to tyranny and yes to hope. Ambassador Zekthara stood before the massive crystal screen in the Galactic Federation Council chamber. His forearms moved in fluid patterns as he addressed the hundreds of species representatives floating in their gravity bubbles. The hegemony had ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years, and today would be no different. The humans refuse our terms, Zekthara announced, his voice carrying across the chamber through translation devices. They call our resource allocation mandate unreasonable. A ripple of amusement passed through the assembled delegates. The Vorthak representative clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his kind. The crystalline Nexari chimed in harmonic frequencies that translated to mockery. Councillor Velnara of the Trade Federation leaned forward in her chair. Remind me, Ambassador, how long have these humans been traveling between stars? 200 of their years, Councillor. Barely yesterday by our standards. More laughter echoed through the chamber. The humans had joined the Federation only 50 years ago, discovered by a routine patrol ship near the edge of known space. They were young, primitive, and unremarkable. Their planet held valuable metals and their population could provide useful labor for the greater good of the galaxy. What exactly do they object to? Asked Commander Thexmal of the Military Council. Zekthara activated his display pad. They refused to provide 80% of their planetary metals. They refused to conscript 40% of their population for Federation work projects. They claim these demands would destroy their civilization. Every species makes sacrifices for the greater good, Velnara said dismissively. The Karathi gave up their art forms. The Zalani abandoned their homeworld entirely. What makes humans think they are special? They sent this message through their ambassador, Zekthara continued. He activated the recording system. A human appeared on the screen. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood straight in her simple blue uniform. Her dark eyes looked directly at the camera as she spoke in clear, measured tones. The United Earth government rejects the Federation's demands. We will not sacrifice our people or our world for your expansion projects. This is our final answer. Any attempt to force compliance will be considered an act of war and will be met with appropriate defensive measures. The chamber fell silent for a moment, then erupted in noise. Species representatives chattered, clicked, hummed, and buzzed in their native languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Did she just threaten us? Commander Thexmal asked, his scarred face twisting in disbelief. They dare to speak of war? The Vorthak representative's voice rose to a shriek. We who have conquered 1,000 worlds? Supreme Chancellor Mordok raised his massive hand for silence. The ancient leader of the Federation spoke slowly, his words carrying the weight of millennia. In 3,000 years, no species has ever refused the mandate. The hegemony did not build this civilization by accepting defiance from primitive worlds. What do we know of human military capability? Asked General Krixnall, the Federation's top military strategist. Zekthara consulted his files. They have approximately 5,000 combat vessels. All of them are smaller than our cruisers. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and basic energy beams. They have no shield technology beyond simple deflector arrays. 5,000 ships, General Crixnell mused. Our third fleet alone contains 12,000 vessels. Their largest ship measures only 800 meters, Zekthera added. Our dreadnoughts are 10 times that size. Chancellor Mordak leaned back in his throne. They speak of defensive measures. What could they possibly do against the might of the Federation? Perhaps they plan to hide behind their star's gravity well, suggested Councillor Velnara. Many primitive species attempt such tactics. Or they might try to negotiate once they see our fleets approaching, added the Nixari representative. Commander Thexmal stood up from his seat. His people, the Crithari, had served as the Federation's military arm for over 1,000 years. They understood war better than most species in the chamber. I recommend a show of force, he declared. 3 fleets should be sufficient. We approach their system, they see our power, and they surrender. No shots need to be fired. And if they do not surrender? Asked a small voice from the back of the chamber. General Crixnell answered without hesitation. Then we remind them why the Federation has ruled unchallenged for 3 millennia. A few destroyed ships should convince them to see reason. Chancellor Mordak nodded slowly. Very well. Commander Thexmal, you will lead this operation. Take the 3rd, 7th, and 12th fleets. Bring these humans to compliance. It will be an honor, Chancellor, Thexmal replied, saluting in the traditional Crithari manner. The vote was swift and unanimous. The Federation had spoken. The humans would comply or face the consequences. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, none of them noticed the small observation node tucked into the corner of the room. The device had been recording everything, transmitting every word back to a seemingly innocent trade vessel 3 systems away. In the cargo hold of that vessel, Captain Maria Santos watched the proceedings with growing satisfaction. She had volunteered for this intelligence mission 6 months ago, knowing the Federation would eventually push too far. Did you get all of that? She asked her communications officer. Every word, Captain. Command is going to want to see this immediately. Maria nodded. Send it on the quantum channel. Priority 1 encryption. And add a personal note from me. What should it say, Captain? Maria smiled grimly as she began typing. Tell Admiral Chen that her speech worked perfectly. The Federation is sending exactly what we expected. 3 fleets just like the simulations predicted. The communications officer looked puzzled. Ma'am, they're bringing 36,000 ships against our 5,000. How is that good news? Because, Lieutenant, they think they're coming to police a bunch of scared primitives. They have no idea what humans are really capable of when we're backed into a corner. The message shot across space at faster than light speeds, racing toward the Sol system where Admiral Sarah Chen waited with the entire Earth Defense Force. The Federation had made their choice. They had decided that humanity would kneel or be destroyed. They were about to learn that humans had a third option. As Captain Santos watched the Federation fleets begin to mobilize on her long-range sensors, she whispered the words that had been passed down through human military tradition for centuries. Let them come. The war that would reshape the galaxy was about to begin, and the Federation had no idea what they had just awakened. In their arrogance, they believed they were about to discipline a wayward child. Instead, they had just declared war on the most dangerous predator the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity was about to remind the universe why they were the only species that had never been conquered.